Smaulgld.
Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is the 28th of May 2019. And tonight's topic, mis-selling gold while Bitcoin soars. I want to discuss the reaction of many gold sellers, gold pumpers, whomever, that are responding to Bitcoin and specifically the Grayscale drop gold Bitcoin advertisement. And I think they're making a very, very big mistake, and I want to get your thoughts. So we're going to focus on that tonight. Probably not get to any of the other news. We'll get to the rest of the news tomorrow. We'll catch up on that. I want to have a discussion, find out what you think as to how gold is being marketed in the past and how it is being marketed currently, how it should be marketed in the future versus Bitcoin. And there's been some high-profile advertising. We saw the Grayscale drop gold by Bitcoin. We saw Peter Schiff debating Saifedean and his Bitcoin standard. And I think they're making a lot of missteps because if you look at... And by the way, if you want to make a comment, I know oftentimes on this channel people have side conversations and it's hard to get to the relevant comments to the discussion. So if you want your comment called out on this particular issue on mis-selling gold while Bitcoin soars, just write SMAULGLD and I will see it'll be highlighted, and then we'll get to your comments after I give you my thoughts here. So what we have is this drop gold campaign. If you haven't heard about it, Grayscale did a commercial that they put out on YouTube, but then they also paid to have it broadcast around. And it just shows that gold is heavy and you need to drop it. And somehow that Bitcoin is a better form of gold. Now, a lot of the Bitcoin promo, and there is no Bitcoin company. So you have companies that, like Grayscale is an investment management company. So what they're doing is they're trying to get more assets under management. And the way they get more assets under management is they sell Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So let me show you how well they have done so far. This is Grayscale. It's a relatively newish company run by a young guy called Barry Silbert. And let's pull up what he's got here in Grayscale. So he essentially has started a bunch of funds in cryptocurrencies. He's got a Litecoin fund. There is a Ethereum fund. They just announced that the Ethereum fund will now be traded on the over-the-counter. So the Bitcoin fund, I think it's GBTC, that trades, you can buy that through your regular brokerage account. And it trades to a premium to the price of Bitcoin. And it's going to be the same thing, I'd imagine, with this Ethereum trust. Now there's also the Bitcoin trust, there's a Litecoin trust. There's a whole bunch of trusts. I think they have a Ethereum Classic trust. So there are definitely a number of trusts that they're working with Grayscale. Here's the list of the ones that they have. So there's the Bitcoin Trust, the Bitcoin Cash Trust, the Ethereum Trust, Ethereum Classic Trust, Horizon Trust, which is an amalgamation of the other coins that they have, Litecoin Trust, Stellar Lumens Trust, XRP, Zcash. But the bulk of the assets under management of the 1.9 billion are in Bitcoin, 1.8 billion. So they have these little small amounts in the other trusts. The Ethereum Trust has 12 million. It'll probably get more now that it's traded on the OTC, but you could see the Bitcoin Trust is the one with the 1.82. So they have done a good job of getting assets under management and selling people the concept of cryptocurrencies, but really specifically the concept of Bitcoin. All right, now, the way they've done a lot of that is by promoting Bitcoin as some type of digital gold. And an aside there, what they try to do is they say that Litecoin is digital silver. So you can see what they're doing. They're going after the gold store of value. Gold is money, period. Therefore, Bitcoin is money because it's digital gold. And Litecoin is digital money, and therefore it's like silver. And they're using that analogy when I actually think that the analogy doesn't hold, because the Satoshi white paper, which is the Genesis paper for Bitcoin, talks about a payment system. Never talks about store of value. It doesn't talk about inherent properties. And what the Bitcoin people have done is they've drawn this analogy, which I think is a faulty analogy, and the gold people have fallen for it. And rather than dismiss it, they actually take it head on. And in a sense, they're punching down, because the Bitcoin market is small. And what they don't realize, I believe, the Bitcoin people the gold people, is that there's only a certain amount of money that is flowing into the Bitcoin space. There's far more interest in the world in precious metals. But the reason Bitcoin gets all the attention is because there's a small amount of money. Any more money that goes into it creates the prices to rise a lot faster. That makes it get the FOMO going. It gets people interested in it, and it leaves gold behind. But what we've seen the gold community do, and the gold sellers particularly, which I think has been a mistake for the last 10 years and something I've been complaining about, is they come up with these fantastical stories. Gold back yuan, game changers, gold set to skyrocket, central banks are buying gold. That is all I need to know. COMEX is going to default. Then you hear these stories about China. China is smart with Sun Tzu, and they're buying gold. And the problem with all these stories is most of them are just fake. There is not going to be a COMEX default. The China thing is so overblown. In fact, just to sidetrack here, China has so many troubles. They are not the paragon of sound money. We got stories here today. China banks and asset managers fined for masking bad debt. I mean, they were probably incentivized to do that. But there's stories every day, and I was just looking at a couple of them here today. Here's one. This is for the gold pumpers in China to crush the dollar because the U.S. debt is unsustainable. They sell a lot of gold on that because China is smart and they buy gold. Yeah, well, let's take a look at how bad the United States unsustainable debt is compared to China's. This is from Zero Hedge. I mean, China is the biggest Ponzi scheme. I don't know why they need China to sell you gold, because Sun Tzu and they're buying gold and they're not telling anyone about it. You hear this story all the time, and that U.S. weakness is the reason to buy gold. Or dollar collapse is another one. COMEX default. Or the China's going to back the yuan. China's not going to back anything. They're swimming in a debt Ponzi scheme. In fact, if you wanted to sell gold using China, you might say they may cause an entire debt Ponzi scheme collapse. But that's another issue. See, this is what they choose to focus on rather than the properties of gold. And when the Bitcoin people say that it's like gold, they don't give you the good arguments. And I want to get some of your ideas. I hear some of the ideas that I think are good arguments for gold, and it's not a gold back yuan, and it's not because it's set to skyrocket or because central bank, whatever. First of all, they don't focus really enough, I think, on that it's a luxury good. They don't focus enough on the history. It's all about scaring people into buy it because something's going to collapse and you want to have gold, or that Russia and China are going to crush the dollar. Whoever's going to, BRICS are going to crush the dollar. And these stories are far, far from the truth. Or the COMEX is going to default and there's going to be no gold available, or the gold shortage. These are not, they're not feasible, they're not real, and they're not the reasons to buy gold. Reasons to buy gold include a traditional inflation hedge, a safe haven that's been proven over time, jewelry. They never mention jewelry because gold pumpers don't sell jewelry. Now, I think gold money's gotten smart and they do sell that investment grade gold jewelry, which I think is a smart thing. They shy away from numismatics, but a lot of very beautiful works of art are in old gold coins, including U.S. gold coins. But then again, you have the unscrupulous gold sellers that are selling gold coins and telling you they're rare and they're not. And so I think that the gold pumping is actually done a disservice to, because they're trying to meet next week's sales targets. So it's almost say anything. And they're really not educating people on gold, even though they pretend that they're not pretend, or they have pretense that they're somehow educating you on gold by telling you about COMEX default and how little eligible gold is available and what the commercials. They just tell you stuff, and people think that that's the reason to buy gold. But anyway, other reasons. It is a luxury good. More gold is sold on the basis of good times than bad times. People with money can buy gold. Poor people can't buy gold, and if there's a collapse, you're not going to be buying any gold anyway. Inflation is always a good one, but the big ones are once you start comparing it to Bitcoin. Now, instead of what they should be doing, let me tell you what they have been doing when they talk about Bitcoin. And this is what I think is the big mistake is, first of all, if your chief spokesman is Peter Schiff for gold, and he calls Bitcoin buyers dumb, inexperienced kids. Well, insulting your market, unless you're in punk rock, is generally not the way to win over new converts, telling them they're dumb and inexperienced. The other thing that they do is they call Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme. They say it's worthless. They say it has no intrinsic value. In other words, they trash the other asset. When again, that really doesn't make anybody who owns that want to buy gold. It makes, psychologically, they dig in and they say, well, you're, old man yelling at Bitcoin. But then I saw this one from Gold Money today, I think it was. And remember, they're talking about the concerned Rosie Seabag wrote, he's one of the guys who runs Gold Money. He wrote I didn't get to read it. He wrote an article about why the Grayscale drop gold campaign was not correct. And I agree with him. I think that what Grayscale is doing to sell Bitcoin is incorrect, except it's catching on. People are actually thinking that Bitcoin is digital gold. But here's where Gold Money, I think this is a marketing failure on the same level as calling Bitcoin buyers dumb and inexperienced, or calling it a Ponzi scheme, or saying it's worthless. Gold Money today says, if you airdropped gold into the Amazon rainforest to a remote tribe, they would understand its value. Now, if you think about that, that's somewhat moronic. And here's why. I criticized this, and I got a response. And the person wrote back to me, do you think that if they dropped thumb drives worth of Bitcoin into the rainforest, they would have any use for it? And I thought, this really is a red herring. Who'd be dumb enough to airdrop anything but food on a remote tribe? The fact that someone in a remote tribe might look at a shiny piece of metal and say, oh, this is interesting, I better hold on to this. I was thinking they might like that parachute. Maybe they can make something, make a tent out of it, or the rope might be useful. But to say that gold has value to people who do not live in a modern integrated society is moronic. That's like saying, well, so, to a tribesman in the rainforest, he sees the value. Well, we really don't care in the developed world what a tribesman sees value in, because we don't live in that world. The value of stocks, bonds, crypto, gold, and other financial assets rely on civilization, not on what some tribesman might think when he picks up a piece of metal that falls out of the sky, dropped on by Gold Money. The financial asset values are not measured by what that person or those people on that tribe might do with a hypothetical airdrop of such assets. It's also interesting. The idea is drop gold is what Grayscale is saying. They're saying, yeah, we're going to airdrop gold into a remote village and we'll show you. They'll appreciate the gold more than Bitcoin. Well, who cares? It's interesting also using the word airdrop, which is a cryptocurrency term for when they hand out the free tokens. But in any event, this is where I think that the gold people are panicking, and they shouldn't be. They should rather be touting the strengths of gold. For example, you don't need a device for gold to work. You don't need electricity for gold to work. You don't need a functioning blockchain. You don't need miners that are operating. Once the gold is mined and it's struck into a coin, it works. There's nothing else that has to be done. There's no third-party apparatus, no electricity, no satellite, no internet. None of that is required to have gold. These are points they don't make. They don't make these points. Rather, they call it a Ponzi scheme. They say it's worthless and has no intrinsic value, and that you're dumb and uneducated if you buy it. And by the way, tribesmen in Brazil, we think, hypothetically, if we were dumb enough to airdrop some gold into a tribal village in the Brazilian Amazon, they would like it. Okay. But anyway, those are the things that gold doesn't require any of that for it to work. You don't need the third-party apparatus. And yet, they don't make these arguments. They make arguments, gold back yuan, dollar collapse, game changer. And in a sense, I think they're punching down. And remember, a lot of they make this argument all the time, that it's about confidence. Well, if you're not confident against Bitcoin as a gold salesman, you sound panicked like this, which is I think they do, then people lose confidence in gold. Now, I don't think that they're that effective in getting people not to have confidence, because a lot of these gold sellers, they don't sell the bulk of the world's gold. I mean, gold money and all the gold sellers, the bulk of the gold is sold in China and India and to Americans and other countries in the form of jewelry. But investment gold, the big investment gold, is sold over the counter on the LBMA. It's not really sold to these types of gold sellers. However, to the retail customer it is. These are the companies, these are the gold sellers that sell to the retail customers, are the ones who write the newsletters. They're the ones who kind of make up these stories and then feel threatened by Bitcoin. Because you don't see, other than the snarky Grayscale comments, most Bitcoin buyers do not spend. I mean, you see it on Twitter, people spending entire days trashing Bitcoin. It's bag holders, it's going down, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it's a Ponzi scheme, all day, every day. And I don't see how these companies are going to survive selling gold retail if they don't present honest information and really stop trashing It's selling gold. Remember, if you are a gold salesman, you're supposed to tout the benefits of gold. You're not supposed to explain why Bitcoin isn't any good, because now you've already lost the argument. You're starting on the defensive. You're not selling gold. You're trashing Bitcoin. Now, here's the other thing which is interesting. I thought was another mistake by Gold Money. They should pay me for this marketing advice here. Every company likes to say that they have good customer service. And I think Gold Money has good customer. I don't think that they suffer from that. But I think they're suffering from a lack of perception. Remember, the thing about banks is they're open only 9 to 5. They're not open on weekends. The thing about Bitcoin is, not only is Bitcoin open 24/7, most of the exchanges are open 24/7, 365 days a year. Gold Money today is saying, visit the Toronto Gold Money branch. Our relationship managers are ready to assist you Tuesday through Thursday from 10 to 6. But what about Monday and Friday? And no weekends. So now you have the situation where if Gold Money is going to act as an intermediary, and remember, one of the things James Turk always rightfully says, one of the founders of Gold Money, is that gold is not a third party. You don't have third party counterparty risk. You own it and that's it. You're not relying on somebody to pay you. Well, with Gold Money you are, because if you store your money, your gold at Gold Money, you're relying on them to sell it for you, to store it for you, to send it to you. So you are relying on them. Well, now you're relying on an institution no different than a bank, and they're only the guy or gal that you're supposed to talk to, the relationship manager. They're only there Tuesday to Thursday. So, I don't know. I think that there's been some serious missteps here in the selling of gold. Because remember, when I started this channel, I've always talked about what gold is. And people take, when I criticize the gold pumping, that I'm trashing gold or silver. I'm not. I'm trashing these fantastical stories. You know, silver has them too. J.P. Morgan's buying American Silver Eagles. Nonsense stuff like that passes for, oh, it's true, and therefore I got to buy. There's silver in yoga pants. Silver is so useful in our lives. You hear these things, and I think that they help silver sellers and newsletters get to the next subscriber or get the next sale. But long term, I don't think they do any good in the public perception of gold and silver. And in fact, they always thought that there's a public perception that gold and silver bugs are tin hat wearing conspiracy theorists. And part of the reason for that is the way they sell gold and silver. There's nothing inherent in gold or silver that says tin hat. It's when they're telling you about the COMEX default and the dollar collapse and all these stories that are, and like when they tell you stories about gold back yuan and JP Morgan buying silver, and there's no basis in the story, or that there's on this particular date this is going to happen and then it's game over, there's a collapse coming, there's Shemitah. When you sell it on that basis and these things don't happen, of course you're going to get a reputation for telling porkies, as they say in England. I think that's all I have. I want to get your comments on this. Is not really new to me, that how gold and silver have been sold. I've always been anti-pumper. I've always been pro gold and silver. And I was always against Bitcoin as a digital asset, something that I didn't think was back. However, the thing with Bitcoin is you can't ignore that there is a market around it. And that's to the point where those in the market, they're the ones who determine the value of it, not those criticizing. And I like to use the example of modern art. There aren't a lot of modern art buyers, but the ones that buy modern art determine the price, not the people on Twitter complaining that a child can do it, and the only reason someone can spend $90 billion on an aluminum cat is because of QE. Who cares? That's not going to change the fact that there's a select group of people that are going to buy an aluminum cat made by some artist. It's the same with Bitcoin. You can go on Twitter and you can do YouTubes trashing Bitcoin all day long. There's already a group of buyers. And they're not necessarily just bag holders. There's people who actually believe there's value in a string of digits. Now, originally I thought, well, that's ridiculous. I didn't believe in it at all. I thought, well, you got to be a moron. Well, I think you have to be a moron now not to recognize the fact that there is a substantial ecosystem of not just kids in the basement that don't know any better, but very large, financially astute. It's hard to imagine, but they actually believe in it. And you now have Fidelity, Bakkt, TD Ameritrade, Microsoft, Square. You have major companies invested in and interested in Bitcoin. So trashing it isn't going to change any of that. So you have to respect the fact that it exists, and no amount of complaining about it is going to knock it down, and it's not going to make anyone buy gold or silver. The best way to get people to buy gold and silver are to promote the qualities of gold and silver, not to complain that people are buying Bitcoin. You might as well complain that people are buying crappy modern art. You might as well complain about anything. It's not going to help you. Anyway, let's see what you guys are thinking in the comment section. Let me get over there right now. By the way, if you enjoy this or any of the Smaulgld podcasts, please consider donating to Smaulgld via PayPal, via Duck. Via PayPal. What am I doing here? Here we go. Getting you the fundraising page. You can donate via Bitcoin, Litecoin. You can send gold or silver also to Smaulgld LLC, P.O. Box 714, Dover, New Hampshire, 3803820. or becoming a Smaulgld patron, or donating one time via PayPal, or recurring via PayPal, or Subscribe Star. You can join one of the mug clubs, or you can always buy a Smaulgld mug or any other Smaulgld branded merchandise that we have at the Smaulgld store. Most of the details are below this BitChute or this YouTube video, and then also on Smaulgld.com. I'll leave that up for you there, and let's see what we have in the comments. All right, Russia. Let's see. Roger says Russia is buying gold. That is all I need to know. D. Sharon is here. Kensingtha and Pablo. Got all the regulars here. Rod Panhard. The elites would rather us plebes chase digital nothing than gold. That's their money. Absolutely. Now remember, Rod, one of my theories is, this is an investment advice, is that is part and parcel of why Bitcoin is and will continue to have value. I believe that the large institutional players and Wall Street and Silicon Valley believe they can pump this up. And if they want to pump it up and they pump it up, it's going to get pumped up and it's going to go higher. Because you're right. Otherwise, it's nothing. It's only in the minds of people that there's value. Because remember, what happens is a bunch of digits get secured, and they're secured by a large mining network. You can send them, and presumably when you send those digits, value is being transmitted. You say, well, nothing's being transmitted. Well, there is, because what's being transmitted has a fiat value that is converted into a fiat value, and when you can transmit $100 million worth of Bitcoin, even though $100 million doesn't go anywhere, just a bunch of numbers. But what got me to realize we've already made a step in that direction is that, what do you think the dollar is? You can say, well, the dollar's backed by something. Well, not really. I mean, it's digital. When you send a wire, you're not sending any money. You're just sending a wire that represents digital, and people believe it. I mean, that represents dollars, and people believe it. And the dollar's not backed by any commodity. No fiat currency in the world today is backed by anything in terms of a physical commodity, and yet there's a lot of wealth in the world. People buy physical, tangible assets all the time with it. You can do the same with Bitcoin. So, yes, you can shake your head at it and say it's not real and I only want what's real. Well, most of what you do in your life isn't real. You listen to digital music. You get a paycheck in which they wire the money to you digitally. You have a bank account which is digital, and they don't have even the dollars, which are worthless anyway in intrinsic point. They're just physical dollars, but they don't even have enough dollars to give you. You can't go to your ATM and take out more than a few $100s. So you already live in a digital world, and this is what convinced me that why Bitcoin actually has legs is when the Indian government in 2016 over the weekend just recalled their entire, 80% of their notes, the two largest rupee notes. And that's when I realized you can't, there's nothing backing it anyway, but they basically said these notes are not worth anything unless you bring them into us and get new ones, or put them in the bank and get yourself a digital passbook, because they're not good anymore. Now the difference is India still has money and they still have rupees, but with Bitcoin, no one can recall the quote money on you, which means to me, that made me realize that if you're already in this digital construct, that Bitcoin is actually more valuable than a rupee or any fiat currency, to the extent that enough people believe in it, and there's no central person or corporation or government that can say, okay, no, they're not worth anything anymore. Now, what can make Bitcoin not worth anything anymore is a technical failure or total lack of confidence in the whole system. But the difference is that it isn't going to be done by one particular entity like the Modi government did to the rupee. It's a good comment there, Rod. Thank you for that. Yeah, and Jack just said he turned his digital nothing into an ounce of gold. See, that's a very important point. When people scoff at Bitcoin profits like they're not real, yeah, they are. So I always say, when people say worthless dollars, send them to me, that you could see on the screen there, where to send your worthless dollars. And some people have it, very clever jokes. They've put their fiat currencies into envelopes. One particularly funny guy sent me some fiat currency in an envelope, and then he sent me some cryptocurrency in an empty envelope, which I thought was very amusing. All right. What else we got? Jack. Pablo, turn my fiat Ponzi into a Smaulgld mug. Best move ever. There you go. Lambo is a bad investment. I would agree with that. If I ever hit it rich, I don't think I'd buy a Lambo. I don't know, what do they cost? $300,000-$400,000. I mean, I would have to make minimum $100 million before I'd even think about, because I don't even want one. But I mean, I guess if you have $100 million, you buy stuff you don't want just because you can, I suppose. But I had just no interest in an expensive car like that. All right. Roger Henley, Smaulgld, Bill Hogan. I don't think any of these people lie to you. I think that it's a sales pitch. I mean, a lot of the stuff in the pumper community is either they believe it, or it's cherry picked, or it sounds good at the time, but they're not there to give you objective analysis. Who is really? I mean, most people, everybody has a point of view, and they're there to either sell a newsletter or to sell gold or silver. But what I find a little offensive about it is somehow it comes across as being like good, solid information that's going to help you. No, it's going to help sell whatever they're selling. Tossing Molotov says crypto advocates trash gold as well. Yes, they do. There are. Yes, you cannot generalize that. There are people that love gold and love crypto, and there are people who love crypto and love gold, and there's people who have come at it from both sides. There's some millennials who got introduced to gold and silver through cryptocurrencies. I know Johnny Litecoin is that way. He's a big silver fan now, having started out in crypto. And there's some people that started out in gold. And, for example, Ed Moy, the former U.S. Mint director, big gold and silver guy, he got onto Bitcoin around 2014, 2013. A big fan of it. Nice to say, what is he, nuts? Yeah, so you're right. There are people that are on both sides and on all sides. But I think that the gold people spend more time. I see more gold people trashing crypto and making it the focus, especially gold sellers and silver sellers, making it the focus of a lot of their YouTubes rather than making gold and silver the focus of what they're talking about. They make Bitcoin the focus, and I think that's a big mistake. Okay, let's see. Jack, Peter Schiff is smart money. He's different off camera. He's bullish on Bitcoin being. It could be. I mean, it could all be a shtick. Who knows? I mean, he's a smart guy. And I remember once he said to, in 2017, he was debating Max Kaiser. Max was yelling and screaming, change the world, Bitcoin, and all this stuff. And Peter said, well, what if I'm right? You know, I think at the time, Bitcoin was like $3,000, $2,800. Was the year it was going up to $20,000. And every time Bitcoin goes up, Peter yells bubble. He's been yelling bubble since it was $200. But he said, what if I'm right, Max? You should put a little bit of your money in gold, which, okay. But Max should have said, well, what if I'm right? You know, why wouldn't somebody have a hedge? No matter what you have, everything, you should hedge everything. I don't see why there's this one or the other in this binary view. There's people like that in gold and silver. There's some silver fanatics that tell you gold is worthless and you don't even want anything to do with it. There's gold people who tell you that silver is just a knockoff, cheap imitation. They're all separate assets. They all have separate uses, and none of them are perfect. So when you hear people say, what if the lights go out? Okay, but what if they don't go out? Then what? Then you're stuck holding an asset that's best used when the lights go out. So for example, the idea that you're trying to compete, that gold is trying to compete with Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, well, it's going to lose there. I mean, Bitcoin was designed as a payment system. The trick to Bitcoin wasn't making it a more efficient payment system. It was getting people to believe that you can actually transmit value through a bunch of bits. Otherwise, there's no way gold can compete or silver can compete as a medium of exchange. Gold and silver were the perfect medium of exchange before the advent of digital, because you can divide them. They were durable. You can carry them around. They could be passed around for years before they wear out. But now it's a lot easier to use digital payments. So you shouldn't compare. If you're trying to win the gold is better than Bitcoin argument, you shouldn't be talking about payments and medium exchange only when, in the example where the lights go out, you have an EMP, you have some type of disaster that doesn't allow you to exchange digitally. But that's not the main reason. If that's the main reason to buy gold and silver, then that's a hedge. That's all it is. It's a hedge against failure. It doesn't mean, if that's your insurance, that all your assets go into insurance. At least, again, not investment advice, but I would think that you wouldn't only own insurance in the world. There's only so much you can insure. Because remember, if you're so insured and there's such a disaster in the case where the lights are out for years, there's not much you can buy anyway. So it's not like you're going to be rich. You're just a target. You got a bunch of... And who would even... Really, not even a target. Because what are you going to do with it? See, gold and silver are more important in a civilized society where people have money and it's a sign of wealth. The same as that gold is worthless to the tribesmen that they wanted to drop it. Gold money wanted to drop on the heads of the people in the Brazilian rainforest. Okay, what else do we have? Yeah, Rod makes another good point. Bitcoin's biggest problem is going to be from the climate change brigade, is the more computation is required to keep the mining, the more power is required, the more ammo the green brigade gets. That's true. But, they're not exactly big fans of mining in general. So they're not going to be fans of gold and silver mining. The difference is, though, as I made this point before, especially with gold, you can stop mining tomorrow. And there's enough gold for it to continue to trade. You don't need to continue mining gold. The price will just go higher eventually because you won't have new supply coming onto the market. But if Bitcoin mining stops, you don't have a way of securing the system. So that's another good point, Rod. Yeah, Roger, good point. The analogy of Amazon tribe is no different to giving a baby a gift. They love the box that came in more than a toy. I was just going to, yes, my son was the same way. Nice toy, but you put it in a nice box, and that's what they're going to play with. So they don't understand value. They're attracted to a shiny object. I thought that was a horrible, horrible commercial to try to... And again, they were trying to combat a Grayscale drop gold commercial, and I think they helped them with that. I hope they don't spend money putting that on TV, of dropping gold into Amazon rainforest. They'd have to have a lot of production. They'd have to go to Brazil. They'd have to drop the gold in. They'd have to have cameras on the ground. I mean, that would be a big waste of money. They'd have to pay to air that commercial. All right. Anton. What else do we have? Anything else? Anton says, BitPay is a payment platform. They sell directly when you send it to them and give dollars to the merchant. Yes. Deep Chiron, those way cryptos just refuse to see the future. I think there's a good part of that. It's very difficult. It's the same as if you've lived through... First of all, if you look at music, the only way you could hear music 100 years ago, a little more than that, was you had to go see it. That was it. There were no record players. Then they had record players. Then they had CDs. And then they had digital downloads. And eventually you realize that music can be delivered to you streaming. You don't have to download an MP3. You can just stream it. And... For example, people who have record collections and CD collections, they're not worth anything because you can get all that without taking up all that space. It's very similar to those that actually believe that, and you can't disabuse them. If they want to believe it, they're going to believe it. That's the problem. If you want to believe that Bitcoin is digital gold, I don't, but that doesn't mean that people don't believe that. I believe it's a payment system. But if they actually think that holding on to Bitcoin in a digital wallet, which doesn't take up any space, doesn't cost any storage fees, they view that as an advantage, just as people would say, why would I have 100, 200, 300 CDs when I can just subscribe to Spotify and just play whatever I want whenever I want and not have to take up space and not have to spend all that money. So there is an element of the world going digital, and if people accept everything else in digital, why wouldn't they accept their store of value in digital? And the thing is, it's not that I believe that, but I can see how people can believe that, and that's more important. It's not most people, what they do is they insist on what they think And they insist that that's how the world either should be or is going to be. And they don't realize that their opinion is only 1/606, how many billion people are in the world. That's their point of view. And it's not going to change anything because you don't like what's going on. All right. Let's see. Anton, can I send Lightning payment to you? No, I don't have Lightning set up. And, I do want to talk quickly about Lightning. Because I hear a lot of Bitcoin maximalists say, oh, once Lightning comes in, then there's no need for any other coin. I'm disagreeing with that. Because if you're a Bitcoin maximalist and you believe that Bitcoin's a store of value, digital gold, fine. Then store it to digital. Well, then you probably don't want to be spending it. You probably just want to hold it. So you're going to need other coins, I believe, transactional coins. Let's say it could be a privacy coin like Monero, or it could be Litecoin, or it could be big block Bitcoin. What's it called? Bitcoin ABC, the Roger Ver thing. And also, the Lightning Network, by definition, because it's second layer, isn't as secure. It's for smaller payments. So you're going to need other coins that you want to transact on chain. And that might be Litecoin, or as I mentioned, some of these other coins, Zcash or whatever. But again, I don't have Lightning set up. And eventually, I'm sure, Lightning will become stable. Jack Dorsey's working on it with Square, and a lot of places will become Lightning enabled. I'm sure eventually the payment. But right now, no, I don't have the ability to do that. But I do appreciate that. All right. Mint Mark SI. 98% of the silver I own is worth less than what I paid for it. I paid $300 this weekend buying and selling cryptos. There you go. I, like you, thought cryptos are ridiculous. Yeah, but reason that you think they're ridiculous, I believe, many of us listen to Gold Pumper videos. You binge watch them, and you get it in your head that silver is rarer than gold. You hear these phrases over and over again. Monetary system reset happens every 40 years. You listen to Mike Baloney videos and you think, oh, he knows what he's talking about. And then you got to go back and say, well, he was telling us in 2011 that by 2015, no later, 500 ounces, maybe 200 ounces would buy you a single family home. I showed that the other night. All right, well, where's the something changed there. That's not going to happen. Didn't happen. Here's why. I never heard that one. It was the same when he did the gold back yuan game changer, telling me that he criticized me in the comments section, saying there's people out there saying this story doesn't have any sources. I'll give you sources. Never happened. We haven't heard why we didn't have the game changer for gold. It was never going to happen. There was no source for it in the first place. But I think that's one of the main reasons. And you start to attach your belief system to stuff that you hear on YouTube. It could be you listen to me and you start believing what I think. But I don't encourage you to believe what I think. I actually tell you that I don't necessarily know, but I'm always questioning, and I'm willing to change my opinion. Even if I don't change my opinion, I'm willing to recognize reality. And reality is what other people are thinking too. All right. Let's see. JB Wentworth. Apple and Goldman offering a consumer-friendly credit card that mentions a new processing platform with lower fees. This sounds like blockchain. I don't know anything about it, but one of the things, JB, is I did a couple of videos a while back called, what was it called? It was called Netflix versus Blockbuster, Bitcoin versus PayPal. And I mentioned that fees, it crushed Blockbuster, those late fees. It wasn't because at the time that Netflix had created a better platform. They didn't have digital downloads at the time. They didn't have their own studio. All they did was get you the VHS tapes and the DVDs to you without late fees. You had to mail them back in, but you didn't have the late fees. And I'm saying that Visa and PayPal are vulnerable because of fees. And if Bitcoin can avoid fees, Litecoin can avoid fees, competitors can avoid fees, then those payment systems might supplant Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and so on. Yeah, so if Apple and Goldman Sachs are doing something like that, and maybe Facebook is doing something like that too with their Facebook Global Coin. Now, the problem I have with the Facebook Global Coin is I don't know anything about it. I know it's just supposed to be a payment coin, but given Facebook's propensity or proclivity or to ban people from their platform, I'd be worried that if you bought any money, any Facebook coin, that they could ban it or retrieve it on you or track it or trace. I just don't think that would be something that I'd want to do. But again, that doesn't mean there's not going to be hundreds of millions of people that wouldn't be interested in using it. They don't care, and they'll sign up for it. And if it can be done at a lower cost to transact than credit cards, then it's got a shot. Shark Air is bearish on silver, saying headed down to 1250. Smaulgld, okay. Martin Armstrong doesn't believe in cryptos. I guess this time he got it wrong. The problem I have is with all these people, they cite, and I'm not talking about you, Fiona, but people mention a guy or someone is perceived to like know something. And they just take that as, well, he knows what he's talking about. And no, I generally like to look at what people are saying. I like to not even know who's saying it. I like to actually read the analysis, the argument, rather than just know who the person is presenting. Because a lot of times you hear, oh, this is this person, so you just assume everything that's coming out of his mouth or her mouth is going to be like what you need to know. It may not be. I mean, so I never, when somebody tells, I've had this, people say this to me, who are you? This channel's got 600,000 views and you only have 4,000. Therefore, I'm wrong. Okay, then you're not listening. What you're listening to are numbers or perceived authority. It's a logical fallacy. It's just that somebody believes something and he's supposed to be, he's supposed to take what they say, not on what is said, but who's saying it. JB, no. I don't. I think Hive was a miner. I don't know much about it. They used to pump them on some of the channels. The CEO used to go on and talk about it. I think they had you invested. I think this is the company where you invest money in the company and then they do mining and they get a profit because they're profitable as miners. But I don't know much about them. Jack says, even if all the banks stop paying for Bitcoin, everyone would still have Bitcoin. It will only become more rare, more... I don't know about that. Dollar cost average. Jack is a big Bitcoin fan. He's talking about dollar cost averaging. D. Chiron, PMs are savings and insurance and a hedge, quite beautiful, and industrial, nothing more. But that's enough. That's right. I agree with that, but that is enough. Jack. I was grumpy last week. Sorry if I was sharp for being open-minded. Cheers, everyone. No issues. Anton, Smaulgld, I will buy more Bitcoin. The value goes up. Right now, I don't, but I'm only up like 70% on Bitcoin. But when I'm up 1,000%, I'll want to spend that. I actually agree with that. I think the government would be well served if we do see a parabolic rise in Bitcoin to allow people to spend it tax-free, because they're not going to lose tax revenue. It'll be a big boost to the economy, because rather than people capitalizing the banks by cashing it out and putting it into a bank, they spend it. And they spend it, and the merchant ends up paying the taxes because they have increase in revenues. And I think that, what I see setting up right now are payment systems. I think that's what's being set up right now is the ability, the on-ramps, the off-ramps, the payment systems, so that people can spend crypto. And I think Wall Street loves that. I think if they can pump the value of these things up tenfold, 20-fold, instead of the whole ecosystem being worth a couple $100 billion, it's worth $2 trillion. It's a lot of money flowing in fees, a lot of money flowing throughout the system. I also think you're going to get, we haven't seen them yet, crypto IPOs, because I think that these Lyft and these Ubers and Snapchats and Teslas, they're kind of duds. You get a Coinbase or what's the other one the other day? I don't know, an Abra. That wasn't the one I was thinking of. It was one the other, Square's already out, but you get some of these, or Backed maybe goes public. You get a couple of crypto IPOs out the door, and they'll draw even more attention into the space. And Wall Street loves this. I mean, they financialize everything. If you try Lightning, I think it will change your mind. It works better than all the other coins you mentioned, Litecoin, BCH, Monero. Well, I don't know. I mean, I've just heard it's not as secure. I'm open to it. I haven't had a problem receiving Litecoin or Bitcoin on-chain. There's been no issues. The fees are higher but the Litecoin fees are small. I'm willing to try the Lightning Network, except that I'm not Lightning enabled. So if you want to send me an email on how to set it up, I'll set it up and see how it works. But see, that's the thing. You got to remember, the average person, if you look at what I have right now, and Lightning will get there, but right now you're looking at the screen. If you want to send me Litecoin or Bitcoin, you have a Loaf wallet or another crypto wallet, you just hold up your phone and say, I want to send Smaulgld $5 worth of Litecoin, $20, whatever it is. You just type it in, hold it up, and boom, it's gone. Lightning, I don't have set up. There's not a channel set up. So again, if it's easy to do, I'm sure it'll get done. And that's what Jack Dorsey said he's working on, but I'm not doing it right now. All right. Two-layer solutions are future for cryptos to scale without losing decentralization. I'm not against it. I'm just saying it's not there at the moment. And I'm also saying that what is available to me works fine. No one is not, you'd probably be the first one, to not send me money because I didn't have Lightning. But if you really wanted to send me money and not just promote Lightning, you could. If you have Bitcoin, you can send it, or Litecoin or any other coin. But again, I'm all for it. It's not there yet. John Morris here. All right, pay with Litecoin. Yeah, well, John, we're getting off the air now, but I did mention you earlier as someone who came to gold and silver through crypto. If you go back and listen, we had a lively discussion about how I think the gold sellers are mis-selling gold by trashing crypto, and Tossing Molotovs made the point that there's some in crypto that trash gold. But anyway, go back and have a listen. And Jack, some say silver is not an investment. No, silver is an asset. Investments, an investment to me, my definition of an investment, Shark Air, is something in which you put money in and you expect somebody else to do something that gives you a rate of return or gets you appreciation on your stock certificates. Silver and Litecoin and Bitcoin and gold don't do anything. You're not relying on a company to make you money. So I call them assets. So a gold mining company is an investment. Gold is an asset. A house is an asset. A rental property is an investment. Getting the picture? Bitcoin mining company is an investment. Bitcoin, an investment. Bitcoin is an asset. All right. Thank you, Anton, Pablo, everyone. And we will see you tomorrow night. We'll try to get caught up on some of the news. There's a lot of crypto news. If we don't get to, remember, Friday night will always be just crypto. Saturday night will be Saturday Night Silver. And Sunday night will be Solid Gold Sunday. So if there's anything I missed during the week's news, I do keep note of it. And we'll pick up on that on the weekend. So thank you very much. Let's see. Yeah, John says, when Bitcoin or Litecoin makes a nice move, I would like to purchase a little silver or gold and pay with Bitcoin or Litecoin. Yeah, and also, we were talking about, John, it's also nice to be able to spend those profits, maybe not necessarily on gold or silver, but to spend them on something else. And I think that's, in general, good for the economy, that if you have a bubble that isn't Fed-driven, meaning the Fed's not dropping money into the system, they're not lowering interest rates, they're not doing QE, it's just the value of the assets are rising and then they're being spent. That's much better stimulus. It's somewhat organic than when you use central bank stimulus. Lewis, how can we turn mugs into an investment? Join the mug clubs. Become a patron or a Subscribe Star member. Or order yourself. I think probably you only have one mug. I mean, if you're a mug stacker, you want to have a bunch of different mugs. And we have the classic, super classic. You don't have a beer mug. You don't have a beer stein. We've got all of those different Smaulgld mugs. So you should start stacking. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. And we will see you tomorrow.